And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Sharon Scholl, who's been a member of this church for 20 years and has served as one of our musicians and a member or chair of many of our committees. If you've been a part of this congregation for even a short time, you probably couldn't avoid knowing Sharon. She's a retired professor of humanities at JU, a well-published poet, and an active member of many organizations. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Sharon Scholl to the pulpit.
Okie doke. Here is the question for the day. What do people want from religion? I have a poem, it's a cynical poem, that answers this, and it's called Getting the Size Right. These vast gods that fill the universe, what use are they? What do they know about Dad's cancer, sister's lazy boyfriend, or the 3-year-old who's never said a word? Job's God brags for umpteen verses about how he created this and that, but can't provide one solid reason for Job's suffering. We need gods that we can plead with, bargain with, or bribe. Make them small enough to be familiar, human enough to understand. Pray to the cosmos and the words evaporate. Prayers require solidity and presence, a destination we can see and touch. When we choose a God, it has to fit the dimension of our need. It has to come with rituals that turn it on and off. Well, those perhaps not quite noble sentiments have led people for all of history to 3 really bad religious choices. What are they and why are they bad? Well, first is power religion, which results in political oppression for most everyone. And there is contract religion, which is an illusion that can devastate personal faith. And there is entertainment religion, which can make religion complicit in the dehumanizing effects of consumer society. Each is ancient, but each is recognizable in contemporary forms that we should be aware and, maybe alarmed about. Power religion started for us here in Western culture in the 4th century of our era, when the Roman Emperor Constantine grew tired of the constant bickering between Christian factions, and Christianity had become the dominant religion of his empire. And so he called a meeting of all the factions and told them to come up with a common creed and common practices, and he'd give them a month to do it. Well, of course, it was the case of the largest delegation wins, with the result was the Nicene Creed, which is repeated in churches even today. And that seems innocent enough until the hierarchy began oppressing every group that didn't agree with the common creed and practices. And that includes the descendants of Jesus' own family and friends, who were called the Ebionites at that time. We are the descendants of that group. Well, for thousands of years, nobody dared dissent. And even today, we have these church, state, mosque, etc., alliances that are just blueprints for oppression. One thinks of Iran, Tibet, or even the stultified official churches of Europe. We are confronted today by the Christian right, which is pushing into every corner of our collective life, demanding chaplains in schools, the display publicly of the Ten Commandments, public financing of private religion-based schools, and the right to deny their employees access to reproductive choices. It's these splinter groups, many of them supporting candidates for public office, in order to undermine the separation of religion and our governmental and civic affairs. The power church is petty, vengeful, and intolerant. Halloween, representing an ancient religious veneration of the earth and of ancestors, is an easy target. We could expect boycotts of Halloween-themed party stores. Haunted houses would be closed, charged with child endangerment. Even by innocent-looking little bats and cat's shirt would be considered really marginal. And I think if she appeared in that witch's hat at the door of the church, if Kathleen appeared, I think the Church of God would certainly collapse around her. So it is white grievance politics backed by conservative Christian denominations, which are promised by one of our national powers, if they win, to spread and enforce that dogma and further limit human freedom. So power religion is just a bad idea. Now, contract religion began and had a role in state affairs even, but today it is more prominent as the dominant religious perspective of probably most Americans, whether churchgoers or not. We're likely never to rid ourselves of this because it appears in every society that has left any record of its existence. For us, with our roots in the Jewish Christian heritage, it starts on record in the 5th century BC, when the legends of the Jewish people were written down and they appear today as the biblical book of Genesis. In chapter 9, verse 17, is its first appearance, in print certainly, when God says to Noah, "This rainbow is a sign of the covenant I have established between me and all life on earth. Never again will water destroy all life. I demand from each man an accounting for the life of his fellow man. You may eat all things, but never things that retain life in them." This, a covenant, is a contract. I do this, you do that. It's a contract. The second covenant, an agreement with Abraham, has enormous influence today. It says, "I give you this land from the river of Egypt to the Euphrates, to you and your descendants for generations to come." And this tells us more about the political problems in the Middle East than any political, let's say, pundit would have. Contract religion didn't turn out to be so helpful for the ancient Jews. A series of kings were convinced by the priests that they need not raise a large army or defensive fortifications or do any of that. All the people needed to do was to live according to the laws that they, the priests, as the mouth of God, prescribed. And they were run over by the Assyrians, the Persians, the Babylonians, and the Romans, and on. And conditions in Israel today prove they have at least learned that lesson. But contract religion, in the popular assumption today that if we live a good life and do what we ought to do, nothing too bad is going to happen to us. we are protected. We have a contract with the powers that be. There is a generalized assumption that our country is under this protection, that we are blessed, unusual, chosen, etc. There were a number of reports after the events of 9/11 that incident had bred an upsurge of atheism, because there was widespread anger that God had failed to hold up his end of the contract. We should have been warned centuries ago by the book of Job, in which that question of this failure arises. God appears, at least according to the writer of that book, God identifies itself with the laws of nature that we cannot control, that we cannot question, that we have no real power or relationship to. God flat out denies there is a contract. Such a thing is taken by human assumptions. And that's all the sacrifice of human life intended to placate some God, and all the people who are wringing their hands in hospital waiting rooms today because they believe there is this contract of protection. God is regarded as a kindly mob boss of a protection racket. We have contract religion, and we will always have it, because the answer Job received is just too frightening to bear. Now, entertainment religion is the dominant form of religion in this country, attracting many thousands to what is described as worship services in great halls vibrating with the noise of commercialized music ditties. But it hardly is a new phenomenon. The ancient church grudgingly accepted as its major observances, such as Christmas and Easter, they put them to coincide with important pagan festivals. It made some effort to add attractive features such as images, processions, meals, gift exchanges, and to attract participation. And so much of this festivity accumulated that a major purpose of the Protestant Reformation was to get rid of most of it. But religion that pretends to be something else is all too relevant today. There's significant danger in entertainment religion because our society depends upon righteous voices outside of that society, which can call us to judgment about some of the bad features of human relationships, of individualism's bad influence on group obligation, of the careless attitude about our environment. By freeing all of us and needing to be consumers, we are more than that. We use our prophetic power. We lose it when we become part of the problem. And going to our taste, the entertainment church makes it easy to slip into without having to learn anything or to promise anything. It's just one more consumer choice. Our church is not immune from attractions of entertainment religion. Occasionally I hear someone say they don't like our hymns and would like something more lively. What they mean is commercial. We made a choice not to base our worship on our educational program on anything other our sacred document, which generates our history and from which we preach or derive our educational program. So we have no sacred document. We don't even have a collection, I wish we did, of humanist, scientific, philosophical classics that we could turn to for sermons and teachings. And the entire load of defining us and connecting us to our history is placed upon that gray hymnal beside you. There are all 500 years of our Judeo-Christian history in that little volume. Now, the idea of liking, preference, whistling in the shower, this is the language of the entertainment church. We need our hymns for just two reasons. That's it. One is to connect us, to clothe us in the ongoing history of our heritage, to make us one with something much deeper than what we find here. And the second is to give words and form to the wordless inner life that we all have. And so week to week, this one source tells us who we are and how we came to be. That's what it's for. So what we failed to make some choice, we're in a bit like the position of the ancient Jews when their leadership was captive in Babylon. And it was being so easy and profitable to just meld their religion into that of the Babylonians, add a few more gods, make your celebrations more like those of your captors, live their lifestyle, regard your religious history as old-fashioned, outgrown, sort of musty. But what they did was to dig deep into their own heritage and present in writing for the first time all the great tales of origin and faith and the leaders of the past. And that's why we have the Torah, the core of the Old Testament, people who wouldn't blend. So our church's motto, in brief, is we change the world. Well, either we change the world or it changes us. That's our choice. We have the old Babylonian choice. And our motto pledges us to establish an opposition culture focused on our unique history and to practice it because it isn't temporary and stylish and an easy choice that fits consumer culture. We'll never be a popular church, driving thousands enhanced by our productions, but we will live deep, true lives in the company of great minds and noble souls who have, over time, saved some remnant of the world that made us more free and the world more beautiful. All around us, power religion threatens to curtail our right to express our honest opinions. Entertainment religion threatens to as distinctly distant from our own religious heritage, and contract religion offers us comfort of a non-existent protection. But we have a long, rich heritage to guide us and great companions to walk beside us. We are not lost in Babylon.